Thank, Thanks very much. Delighted to be here today, and I'm joined by my esteemed colleague Matt Sayer. Matt's Principal Product Manager here at Anomali. That's a very powerful position. So Matt is setting and delivering the technical direction for our platform and product. And so I'm delighted to have him here with me because he's closest to everything the product can do and will do, which is fantastic. And before, Matt, you were here at Anomaly. I know you were with Splunk. And before that, you were in the trenches doing real operational roles as well. So, you come with a great pedigree, and I'm delighted to be here with you today.
Yeah, thank you so much, Steve. Yeah, in the trenches, security operations, security consulting, software engineering, and now I'm here and delighted to present you, our VP of Anomaly Threat Research, very valuable component of what we offer here at Anomaly. And before here, you were in a different kind of trenches, a more leadership kind of trenches at BT Group, right?
That
And I'm really excited to hear today about what that was like for you and some of your key learnings there that we can share with people in this webinar today.
Sure thing. Well, before I sort of get into that, just to give a bit of background, yeah, I spent a decade protecting BT in the UK and across the globe. BT Group is a global communications provider. So, if you sort of looked at into the US context, quite like an AT&T, it's the UK national communications provider across fixed and mobile and broadband, TV, entertainment. It's part of the UK's critical national infrastructure. And while I was there, I transformed security and ran both cyber and physical security operations and threat intelligence, offensive security, investigations, incident response, executive protection, security culture, and security investment. So I was looking after basically everything operationally that protected BT and the interests of our customers and wider stakeholders. So yeah, pretty
Is that all?
heavyweight role. And
Is
that's
that
all,
all?
man. Yeah, that's all. But as I reflect on that role, it really could be broken down into one word. That was the expectation that the seniors had of me in delivering the security mission and support for the organization. And that one word was grip.
Yeah, and now what is grip in this context?
Yeah, well, grip is not like a bag you carry things around in, right? A
Right.
grip here means talking about having grip is in terms of understanding as having control, having command across something. So, Matt, for example, do you have grip on your personal finances?
Well, I mean, it was just tax day on Monday, but generally yes. Generally yes.
Exactly, because it's important, right? So things that are really important, people want to know that you have grip on it, you have the understanding of it, and have the command across it. So
Okay.
when I think about that grip, it actually breaks down into three key areas. And I'm going to walk through them right now, but they're there up on the slide. So the first was the threat landscape. And what I mean by that is the relevant threat landscape. So what visibility do we have into the what and why of threats? So who is likely to target us and why? And this goes back to, Sun Tzu's Art of War, where he said back in 500 BC, if you know neither the enemy nor yourself, you will succumb in every battle. So knowing the enemy is really, really important. And also understanding what are their objectives. So therefore, what's at risk? And if you understand that, and if you understand those actors and how they operate and how they're likely to come at you and how they're developing and the key trends around that, and very much who's active now across your threat landscape, that's really important in setting the context of how you approach security for your organization. Well, the next piece of Sun Tzu's Art of War is knowing yourself. So thinking about our security posture, how protected and prepared are we? And if I think about the opportunity that those attackers can see as they look at me, as they look at my organization, um, that's my attack surface. Now, am I reducing that attack surface, reducing the opportunity that those attackers have? And as they potentially breach that sort of outer wall and they maybe get a little bit of a foothold in inside, have I optimized my security operations so that there are multiple overlapping and compensating controls that will, prevent that attacker from maybe being successful? And fundamentally, of course, do I have immediate actionable visibility on my posture and that threat landscape? Well, of course, then we've got to recognize, and as I always used to say to my stakeholders, there is no such thing as 100% security. You know, attacks will come towards us, threats will come towards us, and some of them will have some degree of success. And that's what we call the actualized threats. So, you know, what you're being judged on here in terms of grip is, can I detect and respond at the pace of any incident? Because if I can do that, I can minimize the harm and disruption to the business. But I need to have the visibility. I need to have the ability to see what's going on and be able to act appropriately.
Yeah, no,
So
this
that
is
allowed me, yeah, go ahead, Matt.
yeah, this is great. And I remember, when I was in high school, I took a driving course, and the very first thing the instructor ever said to me was to the whole class, he said, "Someday you will be in a car accident. Will you be prepared to defend yourself and like do what you can to prevent it?" And all those kinds. And this is exactly a very similar analogy, right? And all
It
these
is.
things they feed into each other. Like this is a cycle. This isn't,
Yeah,
this solo thing. And so I'm curious, all these put together, what do they help you do as a leader?
yeah, exactly right. And fundamentally, if you sort of reflect upon that and think about what this grip gives you, it allows you then to maintain a security narrative with your stakeholders aligned to the business's goals and objectives. So security is becoming a real partner to the business. In fact, I used to say it transformed the CISO into an investable CISO, one that would be given the funding necessary because you could articulate the hows and whys and wherefores of what needed to be done in order to maintain this grip for the organization, to allow it to pursue its goals and objectives and keep its promises. So that was just really, really, really important. Made you a really relevant partner to the business.
Absolutely. And in my experience, a lot of organizations have these in different silos, and that's pretty limiting, right?
That is limiting. That is limiting. And in fact, if you imagine that we're looking down on a three-legged stool, and each of those three areas of grip is like one leg of the stool, and then the bit you sit on is that security narrative. Now, we all know, from physics, that a three-legged stool is a very, very stable structure. However, if the legs are of different lengths or of various strengths, it's not a very comfortable thing to sit on. So when you bring these three areas together as an unsiloed approach, you create a very amplifying cycle for the organization, which allows the security transformation that you talk about, allows you to really transform the organization and deliver unparalleled value to your business, which is what it's all about when you're delivering the security mission to protect your organization.
And this is super easy to do, right? To have a grip on these three things.
Well, no, actually, it's actually really tough. Because if you start to peel this back, and we're going to unwrap a bit of this today, right? Is when you start to say, well, what do I need to be able to do? What's the challenge? Let's bring it down to the SOC, right? Where the people that I cared about a great deal operated every day valiantly defending the organization. You're starting to realize, the challenges you've got is, have I got everything everywhere all at once?
Great movie.
So
I saw that
great movie.
reference.
It's fantastic. No sausage fingers today, I'm afraid. But
Good.
can I capture and hold enough data from everything that I need to monitor? Do I have visibility into and can I make sense of the monitoring everywhere that I need to? And can I react and respond all at once? Because I can't anticipate exactly where things are going to happen, but I need to be able to get there fast if it does. But I don't want to be just reacting, right? Reacting is part of the game. It's important to be able to move it at the pace of an incident, but I want to be able to preempt. I want to be able to improve and sustain my security posture. I want to be able to prepare. I mean, no sports person goes out, into a competition without having prepared for it, right? And that's really important. So in doing that and ensuring I've understood what's at risk, I can ensure that my response here, my preparation here, is aligned and relevant to the business. But the other really cold, hard reality that I faced into is that security is an overhead. It's a cost overhead to the business. So in that cost-constrained environment that everybody operates in, especially with their overheads, I've got to have the ability to achieve more with less.
Yeah, but Yeah, businesses they can't operate in their own little fiefdoms anymore, right? Those silos. Because if you're a modern digital enterprise, security needs to be a part of your culture. Like it really adds value to help you grow. Because if you can't have your information confidential with integrity and availability, you don't have a business.
And you're absolutely right. And in fact, the other compounding factor that we've all experienced since the COVID pandemic is that organizations across the board, and I talked to many people in my network, we all had to move forward and digitize our whole operation way faster than we were anticipating. And I mean, both digitizing the way we operated with our own employees, with our customers and marketplaces and suppliers, everything just leapt forward. So when you think about that digitization, and we're talking now cyber, it means that cyber interruption or an interruption caused by a cyber threat is a full on business interruption risk. And for some organizations, that's actually an existential threat. It could put the company out of business or in a position where it takes a very, very long time to recover. So yeah, it's just as difficult as it is. It's as difficult as it could possibly be, Matt.
Yep. Yep. So tell me more about doing more with less. That's also pretty easy to do, right?
Well, actually, I'm going to say it needs a bit of a rethink. And staying with, the SOC, many SOCs were designed and were born out of IT operations service management. Okay, and we'll all be familiar with that. It's decades old. So monitoring raises alerts. Alerts become tickets. Analysts dealing with those tickets will sometimes do some work around contextualizing it. So in the cyber aspect, they might be enriching those alerts with intelligence. But fundamentally, they need to make a decision. They need to take an action, close the ticket, move on to the next ticket. And, for me, more is not more about this factory.
Right. Yeah. So if you're just churning through tickets, I mean, that's not quite as effective in a security context, right? I think, more tickets doesn't equal more secure. I think Goodhart's law that says as soon as a measure becomes a target, ceases to become a good measure, right? And if you
Yeah,
have, analysts closing tickets, I mean, it becomes kind of a factory position, right? And then, I mean, you get factory workers. I don't think that's super helpful, is it?
it's unfortunately the case. And sometimes you meet SOC analysts that have just sort of been beaten into shape into being a factory worker, and it's not really where they want to be. They want to get off this merry-go-round and do a better job and do the sort of security job they imagined they would be able to do. So more for me then is about, let's lift our heads up and say it's more about having impact on grip, the grip I talked about at the very start of this. So let's actually go back to that area of grip, and we could spend the next few hours if everyone wanted to stay talking about this, but we don't have that kind of time today. So
With that kind of
um,
attention span.
exactly. So maybe we'll do some more sessions around this to fully tour these three areas of grip and how they interplay. But for today, I want to stay with the SOC teams, these valiant, dedicated defenders who we're here for, essentially, and focus on often what is the most stressful part of their role. And it's at that pivot point of success or failure in their ability to protect, detect, and respond to a new threat. And what we do empowers them to have that impact on that grip where it matters most.
Excellent. And today, we're going to enter this cycle and show how
Yeah,
generative AI can help these two key resources, threat intelligence and your own internal telemetry logs. I do have a pretty good demo about this in a few minutes, but first, can you explain what is this, the OODA loop? Did I say that right?
you did say that right. And
Okay.
I'm guessing that a fair proportion of the folks with us today will know what this is. But for those that maybe haven't come across this before, OODA loop, OODA, 4 letters, do stand for 4 words. It comes from the US Air Force, origins back in the 1950s, I think in the Korean War. And the 4 letters stand for observe, orientate, decide, and act. And I'll break that down. So observe is being able to gather together available telemetry that is relevant to what it is, the mission that you have got. Orientation is you're putting it into the context of the mission and the objective you have for that pilot, such that they are able in the moment to make the right decisions and act upon them. And the whole theory was that if the folks supporting the pilot on the ground with the communications and the radar stations, everything that they've got to play with, as well as what's in the cockpit in terms of telemetry and what the pilot is able to deal with, that observe and orientate allows them to decide and act, complete the mission, and return home successfully. So they stay up in the air, they don't get shot down by the enemy. So that's what the OODA loop's all about. And when you think about what's going on there, is you're iterating a loop in order to make effective decisions based upon the latest information that you have gathered and orientated. So that allows you to make precise decisions that have velocity and impact. So really, in our context, that's really about having immediate insight from the latest threat intelligence and the real detections. So I can't wait for this. This is going to be a great demo. But this is all a huge struggle for SOCs, right, Matt?
Yeah, there's a couple of challenges there. And we're going to talk about, each of these, because one of the first ones is, just speed. If you have all these pieces in place, your threat intelligence, your logs, your SIMs, it's still really slow. And, you have these queries that can time out. And if you do have them working, you can't look back that far. You have this limited look back, maybe 90 days, but you've probably been in business more than 90 days and, been at risk, more than that. And so if you do have those in place, the ease of use, the training required to get, new folks up to speed on this kind of technology, that takes time. And, once they are up to speed and able to, have a grip on these tools, if you will, it's hard to retain that talent, as they have skills that are valuable at that point. And then if you still have all those pieces in place, get to a point where you have those actualized threats you were just talking about, your incident response and disaster response, it's still hard to do. Maybe the processes don't fully map to exactly what you're doing with the threats and how to respond to those threats. So it's even compounded with the challenge of, do you have the latest intelligence? Do you have the latest indicators of compromise or indicators of attack to help you kind of plan ahead and be ahead of these things? All this combined, it makes it really, really challenging to be a SOC today. And so we should probably think of a different fundamental approach here. And I
Yeah,
think,
yeah.
yeah,
I agree
with
with you,
this,
Matt. You get no argument from me. I saw these firsthand, all of these challenges, and I agree with you. I think we do need a different approach. But I don't want to go through more slides. I'd like to see something for real. I'd like to see a real system. That's why I got you here, Matt, today,
yeah,
because you run the product. I want to see the product. I want to see these new ideas. I want to see how this actually operates. I want to keep it in the context of the analyst, right? Because these are the people we're caring
absolutely.
about today, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, let's
So
do a demo.
so
Um,
let me flip screens for you
yeah,
and set you up.
I'm a fan of show don't tell. So you asked day in the life of an analyst. You get a security advisory like this from CISA, and it gives you a pretty good, very thorough, breakdown of an attacker. Like, this is the move it vulnerability. Vendor got hacked, hackers are exploiting it. And this page has, a lot of great information to help you, understand, how to detect this in your environment, how to, potentially mitigate it. But, first thing first is, what is this all telling me? So we can use Copilot in an Anomaly powered SOC to get you a summary of it real quick, save you a lot of time reading right here, give you some takeaways, targeted industries and such. And then let's go ahead. There's a lot of hashes, IP addresses, URLs here. We're going to go ahead and scan it. And we will see here the whole page now has, combined with our threat intelligence, all the information that we know about these things. And we can even see right away, within seconds, we have one of these indicators of compromise in our environment. And that can look back up to 5 years. And we just saw within seconds that, yes, we have a summary of what's going on, and we've seen an indicator of this in our environment. So, one thing we can do here is bring all of these observables into our environment really quickly and easily. And this is in our threat stream, our tip. And once we have it in our environment, we can start taking action on it, slapping tags on it to get it out to our devices. And we can easily pivot here and create an investigation, which will take all the information from this page, everything that we just scanned here, and once again, get it into ThreatStream so that we're able to do a little bit more analysis. And so go ahead and click here to view the investigation, see it being put together. One of the great things that we just saw here is all the MITRE ATT&CK TTPs that were present in this MOVEit vulnerability are being loaded in here. And you'll see as it populates, here's the mapping of it. And it's going to show you as it comes in, the frequency of these attacks in this attack pattern. And earlier in our organization, we have done an analysis to see what our organization is most vulnerable to. And here you can see from low to high risk, what we're most vulnerable. Oh, and it looks like system information discovery. Maybe we're a little bit more vulnerable to that. And as we come down here, we'll see all those observables kind of pop into place and give us an idea of the layout of this whole attack in general. And so this right here happened in seconds very easily. But, we saw that indicator earlier, that match. So let's go ahead and take a look in our SIM, in our security analytics platform. So I could do all this AQL, the Anomali query language, but I don't have to be an AQL ninja. I can use, once again, Copilot, our generative AI, and just say, have I been affected by MOVEit? And Copilot is going to take my natural language, it takes any spoken language, and it turns it into this query, using our AQL. It uses its generative AI smarts to generate, this threat model name, MOVEit. And here we can see all the logs in which, okay, here's that indicator. There's this IP address right here that we just saw a minute ago on that web page in our Copilot extension, that we had the match on. So, we have this IP address. We know it's been matched in our environment. We have the logs here pulled up that we were able to find just by asking, have I been affected by MOVEit? Here it is. And we can even take this information, and like I mentioned and alluded to earlier, we slap a tag on it that says, we've seen this on our firewall. So we can send it to the integrator, which connects to your devices like your firewall, and it'll shoot that IP immediately over to your firewall to block it. And here I can ask our chat, what is MOVEit? And it tells me based on data I have that we just pulled in using our threat models. So this is grounded in truth in your threat intelligence data. And I can even ask follow-up question, well, how can I mitigate it? Well, here apply the patches released by the vendor and such. Pretty straightforward. And do some user education. All this, again, grounded in truth, saving you time reading, letting you just collaborate with Copilot to get you to a point where you can be, more secure. So we've seen this in our environment, we've blocked it in our environment, and we've got the investigation going using all the information from that security advisory. And now we can easily report on it, export this to a PDF, take notes, to say the steps that we did to prevent this. And, here I'm exporting to a PDF. And so within several minutes, we went from what is, this advisory to knowing everything about it, essentially, scanning our environment for it, seeing that it affected us, and reporting on it after mitigating its effect. And was that like 5 minutes?
That's like 5 minutes. So I want to take a moment, right, to just reflect on what we've just witnessed in that sort of 5 minutes of real time, right? That's a real time walkthrough, right? There's no cuts or edits in any of that. That's an absolute truthful thing. Because I always hold you to be absolutely spot on when we're talking to folk about what we're able to do here. Going back to my previous experience, what typically would happen with this is the first thing I would get would be high-level executives in the organization, especially something like MOVEit, right? Because it was in the mainstream press right? When it broke out, because British Airways and other, big known brands were caught up in all of this. So the first thing they'll say is, what is this? Right? First question got to answer. You saw there a summary could be created that I could then use to send out. And typically, I was trying to get that summary into the form factor of a mobile phone screen, because I knew most of my executives would be consuming this on their email, on their mobile device as they were getting into work, because I'd have to get this out first thing, right? So again, being able to summarize and condense very quickly with the key takeaways and have that really crisp, fantastic. Next question is going to be, do we need to worry? So I'd be immediately then understanding, well, do I have this in my infrastructure? Do I need to worry about it? And then they'll say, are we currently impacted? So we have the detections there. What are we going to do to defend ourselves? I'll say, well, we've already sent down all of the known indicators down to our security front line. We've identified that we have observations against these ones that have IP address. We're currently looking into it. I've now answered that within the first 5 to 10 minutes of what I call the golden hour, the golden 60 minutes, once a threat becomes known to an organization. If you can gain grip, command, and control within that first 60 minutes, your chances of coming out relatively unscathed and successful, and as an asset to your organization in terms of security team, is hugely increased. And that's why I wanted to take that moment just to reflect, Matt, on how important what we've just seen is to the security team. It's just absolutely huge.
Yeah, and that golden hour sounds a lot more stressful than, say, a photographer's golden hour. So anything we can do to help alleviate that, I hope everyone really enjoyed that demo. But Rome wasn't built in a day, right? It's a journey to get to this point. And if we reflect on what we just saw, it should help up-level your SOC really quickly, because that search, we can search 5 years back to look for those indicators, and that took seconds. Everything I just showed you, that demo, that's all in production, available today. And the years of data, searching it should be simple. That's why we can use Copilot to give you that natural language to make it easier to use. Have I been affected by this? And then that rapid vigilance it gives you, the reaction time, like you said, this was 5 minutes. What do I do with the last 55 minutes of my golden hour? Can I go make a coffee, right? Because
no, you can't.
No, okay,
Say who you
gotta look busy, right? But we have, this vast amount of world-class CTI to, help you action off all this data. And, with generative AI, your efficiency is super increased, and the costs are lowered, doing that more with less, you mentioned.
Yeah, I think the other thing just to reflect upon before we sort of leave this is that no security event or incident is just a moment in time, right? It starts and then it has a lifetime. And you need to be able to, do you remember the US pilot up in the sky exercising his OODA loop? You're on a mission until you come back into land, and you're landing back at base when the threat is over. Okay, but during all of that time, you need to be iterating that OODA loop, getting the latest updates in terms of telemetry from your environment, in terms of latest threat intelligence, making the right decisions, acting upon them until the threat is dealt with. And that's the important piece of being able to utilize this threat intelligence so effectively against your own observations and preparedness for the organization. So really huge. Now, I noticed you said to me Rome wasn't built in a day, and that's very true. And in fact, I've got a great analogy around how teams can evolve and how this is a constant journey. And I'm going to use an analogy, a sporting analogy, and I'm going to talk about soccer, or football, as we call it here in my country. I mean, in fact, most of the rest of the world.
You can't call football. This is football. That's
no, come on, man.
Soccer.
All right, I'll say soccer, right? Just to please you, and I'll try and switch my language to be all language that you'll find more comfortable. But look, all joking aside, right? When your kids, if you ever seen your kids go out, first time they get onto a pitch or a playing field, do I call it? Playing field.
Yes.
The field, okay. They know the football's important, right? And you'll see them all chasing the ball around the pitch. And that's quite like, less experienced socks, or even sometimes the sort of socks we're talking about where they're quite constrained in the visibility and the tools they've got. They kind of have to just focus on the ball, and because that's the only real thing they can play. It's the only game they can play. It's the only game they're enabled to play. But they know they want to do better. And as teams evolve, and as they get better understanding, they realize that soccer is actually played by a team, and that team is made up of different people with different skills who play in different positions on the field of play. So you have the goalkeeper, you have the defenders, you have the midfielders, you have the sweepers, you have the strikers, you have forward players, etc.
You forgot
So they all
halfback.
understand.
I know halfback. That's like all I know.
You're on fire today, man. Yeah, you're right. So they know that these positions are there, and they've probably got a coach now involved with them. They're helping to marshal and prepare how they're going to play. But again, they're just playing to their own strengths, right? So they're turning up at each game, and they're just playing the game as best they can. So this is much better than the kids chasing the ball around the pitch. But essentially, they're still playing a reactive game here, albeit at a better level of organization and formation. But if you think about, the Premier League in the UK, or you think about, the World Cup, if you tuned in and watched, the national teams playing,
Is that like the Super
like the Super Bowl? Yeah, like the Super Bowl, but for the whole world. At the elite level, they're using intelligence. They've thought about who they're going to be up against. They know who their opposition is likely to be, and they have understood who they're up against, how those teams often play, how their attacks can be disrupted, how they should approach the game and adjust as the match unfolds. That's what intelligence gives you as you layer on top of the skills and experience and the understanding of your own environment and who you're up against.
And the difference between like the bottom layer here, the immature, and the top layer here, mature, like it's vast, right? I know you like to show a video sometimes with this, which we don't have today, but it's that video of 3 professional players in this top tier, and they're playing against a swarm of young children, in this first tier, and the 3 of them against, I think, 50, 80 children, just they demolish them. They run circles around them.
Well, I'll make you a promise, Matt. If we have time during the Q&A session, I'll maybe dig it out, and if there's time, I'll play it to everyone, because it is incredible. It is incredible.
It is incredible, but it takes time to get there, right? We have those 2 key resources: the threat intelligence, your telemetry, and then you add the co-pilot on top of that. The co-pilot can immediately lift you up a level here, right? It's meant to be a great augmentation to get you to this top layer.
Yeah, and that's a very important point you make there. We do not see AI as a replacement for the humans in the SOC. We see it as a partner. SOCs of the future are not going to be racks of computers, right? It's still going to have our beloved SOC analysts sitting in there, but what they're going to have is they're going to have an Iron Man suit. And that's the way I see AI operating. We've got the Tony Stark, and he's wearing Jarvis, his Iron Man suit, and it's the partnership that creates the amazing superhero that we see in the films.
Yeah, absolutely. I remember one of the films, someone challenged Tony Stark, and they said, "Who is Tony Stark without the suit?" And he's like, "Genius, philanthropist, billionaire, playboy." Like, he's amazing, but my kids aren't running around the backyard pretending to be Tony Stark, right? They're running around being Iron Man, because Iron Man with Jarvis as his co-pilot, Tony Stark in his suit, that is the full realization of who he is and can be.
Yeah, and it's freeing those analysts from that kind of slavery that we talked about earlier on. In the threat landscape area, you've got that summarization we saw around News Advisor and blogs. The AI can start to understand your business and give you answers in the context of your organization and your threat landscape and so on. So again, it's just there, always helping the analyst to give the very best possible information so that they can pass it on effectively. You can use that information then to start thinking about how you want to specify your threat hunting. also for skill sets you might not have. So, quite often if I was dealing with incident, I was, blessed actually. My teams within BT, we did have, an offensive security team, that were up at the nation state level of competency. And I would always have them on board when we were dealing with incident to say, well, we're seeing this and we know it's maybe this actor, what do you think is likely to happen next? What should we be worrying about? So that hacker's mind is really important because that could give you the next steps, the next things you should sort of be protecting or looking for means to disrupt in order to contain that attack and minimize its chance of success. And then when you get to the actualized threats, that ability to do that rapid correlation, all that time you can save so you can exercise that OODA loop easily and comfortably at the pace of that incident and make the right selections of mitigation and response actions. It's just a huge boon for the SOC.
Absolutely. It is super helpful. It's not just that, chat GPT question prompt, get an answer. Uh, we here at Anomaly, we're interweaving it everywhere. Everything in our security analytics and our threat stream, our Copilot extension, everywhere. And you saw it, I gave a few sneak peeks and it works. It's fantastic.
Yeah, brilliant. Well, listen, Matt, thank you very much for being with me today. Thank you for ragging me about soccer constantly.
Of course.
And I think, it's be good to turn this over to some Q&A, I think.
Yeah, thank you everyone for joining us, and I hope you do stick around for some Q&A. We know there's a lot of different things you could be doing right now, and so it means a lot that you're spending this time with us. And so the questions that we have in our Q&A, feel free again to use that Q&A button at the bottom. We'll go through these questions and answer them either live or type them out. So I'll start with one we have in here from Jean-Luc. He says, perhaps you should explain what can be automated. The demo was all manual actions. Well, so the automation, I kicked off things like scanning and summarizing, but what you saw was all those things happening instead of typing a query and getting an answer, instead of having to, go and correlate all these IOCs and write my own detections and, open and close tickets. I was able to do that all within, using Copilot, all within our platform. And so, yeah, there were some manual, actions in there. I don't want to let a generative AI just run amok in my SOC. Like Steve said, future of the SOC is not all, servers running open AI stuff. So I think it's pretty important that, the human is augmented with the Copilot because I still believe it's very important to have a human in the loop. Let me go and look at some other questions. Someone asked, is my data private when using Anomalies Copilot? The answer is yes. We have our own private tenants for LLMs, and we anonymized your data. We are not shipping any of your information over to Sam Altman at OpenAI and training any data sets with your information. That's definitely not the case. Someone else asked, what does AQL stand for? That is Anomaly Query Language. It's our query language that lets you, search through all your data. And like I said, it's great that you don't have to be a ninja to be able to use it when you can use Copilot to help you translate, your language into that AQL for you.
And do you know what I like about the way you've done it, Matt, just to give you sort of a compliment is, so I'm typing in my natural language means, I don't need to have learned or been on the course or training to be able to start being effective. I can type in that natural language, but it shows me the query.
Yeah.
So I'm learning as I go along, using my own language, I'm learning the other language, and then I can save those and I can maybe modify them and tweak them, and I'm then getting even more skilled in the language, but always knowing that I can start with natural language. I do like that.
Absolutely. And over time, like you can use Copilot to say, hey, this query doesn't return exactly what I want. Can you make it, just limit it to the top 10 or something like that and help you with that. And then, like you said, in time, you're like, oh, I can also just append pipe limit 10 in the future. And it's like it's a really great teacher in that you learn by doing, right? Got another question here. Does Copilot integrate with other SIMs? You can absolutely use the browser extension in your own SIMs to do scanning, summarizing, reporting. When you want to use it to search like in your environment for matches and such, that's going to be in our platform. But there's still immense value to be had from having the Copilot extension, help you navigate your security incidents. Caesar asks, hello, threat intelligence reports have to be published on the internet, or can they be consumed from PDFs or local systems? Great thing about ThreatStream and its importation of threat intelligence, we take whatever you can throw at it and we get it in the system, whether it's from a PDF, you can either, import it with our platform, with our Copilot extension, or you can, subscribe to threat intelligence feeds. You can even just paste intelligence like from your clipboard in raw text format, CSVs, except like name an extension, we can do it. We make it as simple as possible for you.
I'm going to give you a break here, Matt, just so you can
Thank you.
take a sip of water. I promised if I could, I would dig out that clip, which I have
Oh,
found.
yeah. Let's see that.
So here you are. So if you want to look it up for yourself, it's about Japanese 3 football stars take on 100 kids playing match 2019. Let's just get that share up and let's go.
This is it. Do they ever say how many kids it is total?
100. 100.
100. I'm shocked. They made it past 2/3 of all the children already.
Yeah. And look, they're all trying to do their best, right? Look how many
Mhm.
goalkeepers there are.
Plenty. I mean, you would think, but then, boop.
There you go.
Love it. I love it. And there's an ad for GoDaddy for you. Well, we Anomaly do not endorse GoDaddy unless they pay us money. I'll get back to the Q&A here. Is the Copilot you showed in the browser just restricted to analysts? Could my boss or senior company leadership use it? It's a browser extension. It's available for all the major browsers. If your organization allows you to install them, anyone can. If you have your own account with our platform, you log in and you can start using it. So, Steve, you're talking about using that summary feature to give you that, a
Yeah.
quick hit. Yeah, you don't have to go bug your analyst for it. You can do it yourself if you want to.
I mean, I used to talk about back in my previous role about democratizing threat intelligence. So that anyone, could get into, understanding the security. And in fact, as your business leader, your ability to start interacting with that security narrative and thinking about those sort of security threats, knowing that you've got your security team there, made for a great conversation. And the other way that that plugin could be used then would be if an exec saw something like this, they could scan it and they could hit a button to start an investigation, which would pass it across straight to the CTI team, where it already had been processed and contextualized and got them off to a flying start to then respond back to the senior with, some deeper dive into what this all meant. And it just created that partnership and democratized threat intelligence. So I'm all for it. Yeah.
Absolutely. Next question. Let's see. You're claiming you're immediately checking out my logs against threat intelligence. What window of intelligence do you mean? Just what was in the article or more than that? I think if I'm interpreting this correctly, this person wants to know, what window of intelligence. So we have, the IOCs in the article. And if you have those, IOCs in your threat stream, in your tip, depending on when it's been active, the confidence and the severity that we know about this, we can use what's in that article to search your logs, all your logs, back up to 5 years. And it doesn't just have to come from an article. You can do this with any IOC or IOA,
Mm.
right? So in that particular example, I did say, have I been affected by Move It? Our tip and our SIM knew that, that indicator was associated with that threat model of Move It, but you can ask it any threat model, and if there are IOCs associated with it, we can look that up for you too.
So,
Steve,
so,
do you want
so
to
it
add
is
something?
actually, so for Move It, it's going beyond what was in that article. If there's anything else that's come in from any of your, because you may have other threat feeds and so on, but anything that is associated, it's taking all of that. And so, for example, I was noticing when you were showing the scan, it was showing that there was a bunch that were already active, and then there was some new ones that were unknown. So were they, what were they? Were they new items of intelligence that were in the article that weren't already in my tip?
Yeah,
I think that's
exactly. And
brilliant.
so,
So now I know about all of this stuff, but here's some new things, and I
mhm,
might want to just bring those in and do some work on those because I've already got the rest.
exactly. And that was, step one was import all these observables into my tip so that we can then do that kind of correlation and analysis.
Yeah, cool.
Looks like we have a question from, it says, can I have a demo system for my team? Yeah, absolutely. There's easy ways to get in touch with us from our website. We'd be happy to, send someone out and talk to you and get you set up so you can take a look at this and play with it for yourself. Shock yourself how well it works. I have another question that says, when dealing with incidents, we often find our sim can't complete the queries we want to run. They're too large or too long, not enough data. What are our constraints here? Nice thing about our cloud native sim is we can take advantage of all the things that make cloud, so great, like the elasticity, rapid spin up and spin down of resources. So if you ask a query and turns out, it's going to take a lot of resources, we can on demand do that for you. That's how we're architected so that we're able to help you, finish that query. Um, the I want to say the constraints are, whatever the data centers are, the AWSs of the world, but like they're they usually have enough horsepower to do what you're looking for here.
And what about the speed though? Because I mean, I know there was times when I used to be challenging my analysts, can we not just, and they'd say, yeah, but that's going to take 2 or 3 days to fully run all of that, or it could take the rest of the day. Do you really want us to be spending the time on that? And it was like, oh, okay, uh, right. So now I'm compromising my decision making because of the platform. So you're making some claims there about it being on the cloud and so on. What's it like for speed, though? The raw speed against checking events against indicators.
Yeah, so I don't have the numbers with me like immediately, but the we are able to search petabytes of data faster than the competition. And like I said, I don't have the numbers directly in front of me, but in our production systems, I'm able to load a massive amount of data and process dashboards and see information super fast within minutes and not hours or days. It's
Mi-
very
Well,
impressive.
well, minutes is great because typically the cadence against a serious incident would be we're on hourly updates and cadence. So that'd be great.
Absolutely. Let's see, Steve, do you want to take a stab at this? And it says, can I set this platform up to be constantly watching for alerts against these specific threats? And can I also automatically update my protective controls against the threat as it evolves?
Yeah, I tell you, it's one of the reasons I came to Anomaly was because I wanted to have a platform or to be involved with a platform that could do this. And I saw Anomaly as a technology that allowed that bonding of the latest threat intelligence with your security frontline controls through integration. So you can have the automated rules set up that as soon as new updates, indicators against this relevant threat are happening, they're going out there to your security front line, to your detections. And then because they're out there and your detection has been updated, you are then aware if there's anything impacting from that latest bleeding edge of the known maliciousness of whatever threat that is. So in short, that was a long answer. Short answer is yes.
Short answer is yes. Yeah, you can set up these save searches to, keep track with your detections, run them on intervals, whatever you'd like. Looks like the Q&A queue just had one extra question come in.
Aha.
Says, can I ask Match whether a specific actor was seen in my telemetry? Absolutely. An actor is a type of threat model. So in my example, instead of saying, have I been affected by Move It, you could say, have I been affected by APT28? And, all the indicators associated with that actor would pop up. So happy, happy to demo that for you in your environment if you like. And again, yeah, reach out to us. Um, we should have your information on file if you'd like to. Well, actually, this was asked anonymously, so uh, let us know.
Please,
Reach out to
please
your
let us
account
know who
team.
you are.
Absolutely, and we can show that for you. With that, it does look like we've exhausted the Q&A. I will talk slowly in case someone else wants to ask more. But
Yeah, but
generally,
I think just reflecting on the last answer you made there, again, going back to my SOC colleagues, when we were looking at a threat like that article, you'd be pulling in all the aspects like the IPs and so on. You'd have to defang them, get them into a package that you could then load in, send to the right place, and you're basically dicing, slicing, dicing, slicing, dicing, slicing. That took quite a bit of time. So again, I'd be saying any impact on this latest piece of intelligence that's come in, and it would be, well, we need to just get it prepped, we'll get the queries run, we'll hopefully have something for you in an hour. We saw 5 minutes there. I mean, I just know, my ex-colleagues will be punching the air to be able to do things like that. They were superb. I mean, how they made Excel work the way it did to help them to slice, dice, and move things around and so on, but to have it all in one place is just incredible.
yeah,
I'm really looking forward to the future of AI powered SOC operations.
yeah, and being the co-pilot PM, I am really stoked about the roadmap. Everything I
Yeah,
showed is what's live today, and what I think is coming next is even cooler. So, um, it's good. It feels good to build products that make people want to punch the air in excitement.
yeah. So, any more questions, Matt, or has it all
No,
dried up?
I think we're done. So I want to
Good.
thank you again, everyone, for joining. I hope you enjoyed the demo. Hope you enjoyed the presentation. We sure enjoyed having you. So thanks again. Have a
Thank
good
you.
rest of your day.